How was your summer anyway, generally?
I mean, it was just frantic. My daughter's a little bit younger than yours. So
Yeah,
it was just a lot of juggling of not ever feeling like you're ever ahead of yourself, but
yeah,
equally then trying to be a bit more gracious with the expectations you put on yourself, which is a learning I am continually, or a lesson I'm continually trying to learn.
yeah.
Haven't quite mastered it yet, but
No, you
maybe
never
we never
will.
do. Yeah, that's impossible. As you may come to learn in this conversation, I like to kind of have a few things going at the same time. I'm not necessarily let's just get me in one box and do one thing person. So as I'm in my 40s now, I'm really embracing that rather than fighting that. But essentially, when there's a pencil in my hand, be that a graphite one or an Apple pencil, I'm happy out. I'll say that.
Oh,
That experience of having a dad who's in a creative profession, there was a whole another layer of then there are shoes to fill, right? That kind of I'll say daddy issues. That sounds a bit like way too like therapized, but there's definitely that sense of really wanting to make him proud with everything that I did. And I think that could be quite a big part and reason of why I had taken the path that I have taken up until now, which has been a little squiggly, right? It's been a little squiggly from since then. But I think that grounding in the creative world definitely impacted my kind of protective mechanisms of like perfectionism and making sure everything has to be like dead right and making sure I make no mistakes, which has really impacted my creative choices, life choices, professional choices as a result. And I think it's only because I've had, years of therapy, years of my own personal development that I can like identify that and go, that makes total sense now. So, but
yeah.
always creating, always doodling, always scribbling, always muraling. That's my childhood in a nutshell. Yeah. Like 14, you can have that kind of careers day session where a complete stranger comes in and chats to you and like basically decides what you should be doing with your life, or helps you at least, or think they're trying to
Mm.
help you. And I was introduced to the world of graphic design, and it was like, oh, okay, this is like a new realm that is alien to me, but it was positioned as the thing that artists do if they want to get paid. And I definitely identified as an artist, and I definitely wanted to get paid. So that is the path I then took. And I think with this really like dogged determination that came from like that childhood of really wanting to like make a creative success of myself, to like prove myself and go, Dad, look what I did. I was like so like tunnel visioned, like laser focused on making that happen. It was like nothing was going to stop me. It wasn't even like on my radar to think that I could actually do illustration. It just like, it sounded like so dreamy and so like, if I could just spend the next 3 years drawing, that would just be like the most amazing thing. But I was like, it was that but this is what I've decided I'm doing, and this is what artists do if they want to get paid. So this is what I'm going to do. And I think at the time I wasn't really processing it as that. I didn't realize it was a real like sliding doors moment. Yeah, then kind of set off on this adventure into design agency land where your life is not your own. And yeah, there's a whole other trajectory that then took me on, from almost what felt like a drawing competition that didn't go the way I wanted to. It sent me on a different direction altogether. Yeah.
It's often, we hear it a lot on this show, these single pivotal moments that
Mm.
usually you do then look back on and realise, as you've said. I just want to go back to Garfield though. You didn't tell me it was Garfield before, but I used to trace Garfield. I loved Garfield. And I talked to one of my other guests recently, Fish, because he used to draw Smurfette. And
Oh,
we were
really?
talking about drawing these characters, but Garfield was my absolute favourite back then when I was at school. But I didn't draw, I had to trace.
Oh, did you? I could do it now, actually. What if it's a little live kind of
Oh yeah, do a
live
live
art
drawing.
challenge?
A live Garfield drawing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely fabulous.
I mean, I can talk about it quite candidly now, and it feels like I can talk like if it's like a small amount of time, but it was a number of years where life was just like so dark and so hard that it was like, I didn't know if I was going to come out the other side of it. It was like crazy, crazy, crazy time. But through that and through therapy and through kind of like really trying to unpick where my diversion kind of went wrong, or say went wrong, it was like, I do believe that these paths are actually intentional. But it was this realization of like, I'm actually not living my life. I'm living the life that I think, you know, my dad might have wanted for me, and I'm living my life that I think that, you know, society wants for me or believes I should do. And it was just this like slowly like clunking into place of like, this is why it doesn't fit, because it's actually not mine. And so then it was this realization of, I need to quit my job, I need to sell my house, I need to end this relationship. And that's basically what I did. I kind of just poured petrol over the whole thing and just torched it and then ran away to America. So that's the obvious next step for someone that's grown up in Birmingham in the UK. But I ran away to the west coast of America for this solo trip where I was on a kind of minibus with like 14 strangers. It was all organised for 14 strangers. I didn't just like turn up and go, I'm getting on your bus. It was organised. It was like 14 solo travellers, say. And this was about 2 months after selling my house, 4 months, 2 months, well, yeah, between 2 and 4 months of selling my house and ending this like 12-year relationship. To then the first person who sits next to me on this bus says, it's Kerry, is it? Because we'd had this like group where we met beforehand online. And I was like, yeah, is it David? And then he's my now husband. So I had about 8 weeks of being single. In that last week, I managed to get like overfunded. I was like, I think like 25% overfunded and raised like 21 grand in the end. And absolutely bawled my eyes out for about 4 hours when we met that funding goal, because it kind of signified the start of something that really felt right, which was me creating something that is helping other people. And yeah, that's kind of then the start of chapter 21. But I'll let you just pause in there. I'm going to take a little sip. This realization very slowly of just like, I don't feel like I'm kind of creating anything anymore, and that doesn't feel so good. And so we're kind of coming up to around like the end of 2021 now, going to that kind of Christmas break when I'm like, okay, so I mean, I did have like a podcast myself. I just have so much respect for you having a podcast. I had a podcast for 2 years in that time that was very much focused on like business coaching as well. And it was this realization of, I had all these like successful things happening, but there was no creativity there. I'd kind of gone a bit too far the other way. And it was then thinking like, how can I have this marriage of me creating and me fulfilling what I know is part of my purpose, which is that impact piece and really helping people, you know, become more of themselves. And so then that Christmas was a really contemplative time. The first time ever I took 2 weeks off business working altogether, because I knew I needed to hear what was going on inside. And if anyone is ever in that space where they don't really know what their instincts are trying to say, I would really, really strongly recommend stopping everything and just getting quiet with it and just pausing as much as you can so you can kind of hear, because that's what I then needed to do. Just feels, yeah, right now life just feels like mine. It feels really, really mine. And that is, yeah, I can't explain how delicious that feels. And it's not obviously without challenges. Like, shiz happens and things are challenging just as much as they ever have been. But it's like the kind of challenge and the kind of tension and stretchiness that feels like the right kind. You know, I'm working towards something that is actually really meaningful and mine and me, rather than something that's not mine and it's not for me.